from the tax roll and put 165 into the capital improvement fund. You have any follow-up to that?
Yeah, I have a follow-up to that. I think that's a great plan if he follows through with it. I mean, all we have to do is look at last year's budget cycle for this year, and we had a $22,000 shortfall this year, and we were going to increase taxes $7 for every $150,000 value home. I stood up at the podium and says that we can cut that $22,000 and get it back to zero so we don't have to raise anybody's taxes. At the last minute, they decided to do a tax levy adjustment to go from $7 on a $150,000 home to $14 on a $150,000 home. I voted no. I was the only council member that voted no. Mr. Redeker raised your taxes. I did not.
Next question is for Mr. Redeker first. What's your strategy for both population and business growth in the Mayville City?
My strategy for growth is quite simple. It must make sense. It must be something that is wanted, and it must be a benefit to the city. Growth is healthy and needed for the city of Mayville. We need to make every effort to first grow within the city limits. As we all know, there are empty business and commercial sites in town. We need to concentrate on filling those if at all possible. I will be proposing in my 2015 budget to fund the Main Street Redevelopment Committee. I propose $10,000 to be invested in this committee. They will be charged with the duty of developing a plan to help new businesses locate here through zero interest loans and grants when appropriate. They will also develop a plan for existing businesses to access funds to improve and expand. This is investment in the downtown, I believe, is crucial to fill the empty storefronts. This city has put a lot of money in the downtown streetscape. We receive a lot of compliments from visitors, but we need to incentivize so that more of our storefronts can be filled. As far as population growth, we have been on a pace of growing at about 300 residents in the last 2 decades. With the housing downturn, we have seen that growth slow greatly. I believe the best way a city can continue to grow its neighborhoods and businesses is to offer a great quality of life at affordable price. That means offer quality services and keep your taxes competitive and affordable.
Thank you. Mr. Belk, your strategy for population and business growth in the city of Mayville.
I like to see happen in our city. Now, just because it's my opinion doesn't mean it's going to happen. We need to tie our feedback from our community. If the community doesn't want it, then it doesn't happen. But what I think we should do is we should establish a downtown economic business partnership with the city hall, with our businesses downtown. And after that's established, we need to try to get some grant money to establish a vitalized plan that we can show businesses how we're going to grow our downtown. Downtown is very important because without our downtown being successful and thriving, it's going to affect everyone's property taxes in our city. Then after that, we need to find an attraction to create foot traffic in our downtown. I've been doing some research on this for the last 6, 7, 8 months. Every successful downtown, small downtown, always has one thing in common. They have an attraction. I mean, all you have to do is look at Hartford. Their attraction is the mine shaft, and after the mine shaft's there's business growth around that area. We need to establish the same thing with foot traffic to grow other businesses in our downtown area.
Any follow-up to that, Mr. Redeker?
Well, I really think the key to bring businesses into town is to keep it affordable for them tax-wise. It's a big consideration that businesses have that locate in wherever they locate. So in saying that, you have to keep your taxes low and affordable, and you're not going to do that if you have somebody that's leading your city that wants to spend money. And I'll take this opportunity to point out Mr. Belk's record of liking to spend money. This past budget cycle, he voted to spend $71,000 on an additional officer and $34,000 instead of a part-time assistant at the police department, a full-time. Those 2 positions alone would have cost the city $105,000. In doing that, we would have lost our state revenue for our budget restraint money, which would have been another $88,000. So for a total cost of $193,000. That has a big impact on your taxes, and we want to try to keep the flow to attract businesses.
Okay. Mr. Belk, do you want to respond to what you
Yes.
just said about spending money?
For the sake of public safety of our residents and our business partners, we need to have an adequate police presence in town. Why would anybody want to move their business to Mayville if we didn't have adequate police protection or amenities? The other thing I would like to point out, and Mr. Redeker stated, is excessive taxes and fees for our businesses. We had this year decided to put a $38 fee for fire inspections for our business partners. I was the only one on the council that voted no, and my opponent decided that was a good thing to charge an extra $38 to our business, schools, and churches.
Okay, next question goes to Mr. Belk first. I think it plays in. Mayville, as I think everybody knows, is still negotiating compensation with the police department. The two questions are, one, what do you see as the future of the Mayville Police Department? And two, what would your strategy be with the negotiations with the Mayville Police Department going forward?
Well, I guess I'm going to bring this up is that I do run a business, a nonprofit business called the Communication Workers of America. I've been the president of that for 6 years. I have extensive negotiation and bargaining skills over 15 years of my life. I would directly bargain with the police union on a contract. I do not think it's right that we spend $50,000 plus on bargaining their contract with expensive lawyers when I can handle that job as mayor of Mayville.
Mr. Redeker.
The current status of the 2011-2013 contract negotiations is that we're at impasse. It is currently going to arbitration. When we receive the arbitration ruling, then we will go right into bargaining the next contract. Hopefully we'll be able to successfully negotiate the next one. The current contract negotiations have been a disappointment. Whenever you have negotiations that drag on for over 3 years, it is obvious. It is an obvious failure. We have tried to be very fair with the union and its officers. Now it is time for the union to be fair with Mayville. Other police unions have worked with their communities understanding the budgetary pressures that local municipalities are under. I certainly hope that in the future they can understand that it is in everyone's best interest to have a fair and competitive contract. As far as the future of the Mayville Police Department, I will work to help make it the best it can be. In saying that, I think it should be a right-sized department, just like any other in the city. I don't think we should understaff it or overstaff it. We need to base the size of the department on need and not want. I believe we need to address the overtime issue. No officer should be forced to work 12-hour shifts or worse. This is not so much a money issue as it is a safety issue for the officer and the public. That is why I would be putting in my 2015 budget funds to hire 2 part-time officers. We will use the money that we currently use to pay overtime to fund these positions. I know we will never eliminate overtime, but we can certainly cut down on it. No officer should be forced to work overtime just because someone goes on vacation, in training, or is sick. I think the future of the department can be very bright if we all work together.
Thank you. Mr. Belk, do you have any follow-up, and in particular, any thoughts on whether the size of the police department and whether more full or part-time positions are needed?
Well, I think that the police department was understaffed. That's why I voted to hire an additional officer. I also want to point out that Mr. Redeker is wrong. The police contract expired in 2010. It's not a guaranteed 3-year contract. That's why you have a negotiation and bargaining process. You can make that 5 or 10 years, whatever you want. I would go back to the police union and try to get something that's fair for both parties. That's how bargaining works. It's not a win. So many times I've been hearing that we need to win, we need to win. It's not a win-lose situation. When you're in negotiation with any kind of a union, it's a win and it's a loss. Both sides give a little and both sides take a little. And me as mayor would make sure that everybody in residents of Mayville is treated fair, and along with our employees in the police union.
Any follow-up to that, Mr. Ryder?
Yeah. The new officer, funding for the new officer was in this year's budget. The new officer will be starting on July 1st, and that officer will also be in my 2015 budget. I'm not proposing to cut the size of the police department. I think it should be, like I said, I think it should be right-sized. They are negotiating the 2011 through 13 contract. I know it expired in 2010. I think it's a very good idea that we get 2 part-time officers in here to relieve the full-time personnel. So.
All right, next question goes to Mr. Redeker first. Do you feel that creating business fees, similar to what the fire inspection fee that was added this year, are appropriate tools for helping control city expenses?
No, I don't believe creating new fees for anyone is a good idea. To address the new fire inspection fee, you have to go back to the beginning. Last year, the fire chief came to the council with a concern of the department keeping up with fire inspections throughout the city. There were some cases that we were behind. This was a concern because if we fall behind on inspections and something were to happen, it would put the city in jeopardy of being a party to a lawsuit. So there were a couple of options, and after contacting a private inspection service, it was actually cheaper for the company to come in and do the inspections than if we continued to do them ourselves. We still have to keep the records by state law, but the company can do the actual inspections. We moved the cost of the inspections from off of the tax levy to the new inspection fee to businesses. So we moved the cost over to a fee schedule and took it off of the tax rolls. This is an important distinction because some just think we created a new fee and didn't take it out of the budget on the other end. The fire department was in charge of keeping up with the 550 inspections per year they were required to do. Being a volunteer department, it was hard for them to find the time and the manpower to do all the inspections in a timely manner. It was also hard for them to keep up with the required training that is necessary to do the inspections.
Thank you, Mr. Belk. How do you feel about the fire inspection fees?
Well, what people need to realize is when you pay your insurance for your homes, you actually pay a hidden 2% fee that goes to the state of Wisconsin, and that in return goes back to the city of Mayville for fire inspection fees. That could be one of the resources that they use. To me, for that 2%, we should have kept, if we had to contract it out like the fire department chief said, then fine, let's contract it out. But we should have absorbed that cost for the city. We didn't need to put any more burden on small businesses in our community.
Any follow-up to that?
Well, again, it was taken off the tax rolls, so that was a mitigating circumstance in that case.
Any follow-up?
He's right. It was taken off the tax roll, and it was actually, put in place to charge businesses, churches, and schools the fee.
All right, next question is for Mr. Belk first. How will your term as mayor differ from your predecessors?
Well, first, I want to say that, my predecessor, Mr. Mady, I think that his skill level is a lot different than mine, and Mr. Redeker's is different than mine, and vice versa, right? I think Mr. Mady has done the best job to his ability up to this point, and I think he's trying to do what's right for the city. It's easy to always take pop shots at the leader, but it's a tough job, and it's a thankless job. What I would like to see happen is more involvement with the community and show the community, tell them what's going on in your city, and get public feedback either on our website or similar emails. And that's what I believe that would be difference between me and my predecessor.
Mr. Redeker.
First of all, I want to thank Mayor Mady for serving as our mayor for the past 4 years and wish him and his family nothing but the best in the future. With every new mayor, there will be changes that will be made. My biggest change will be in the area of communication. I believe with any relationship or endeavor, communication is key to success. We live in a time that the ease of communication has never been better. We need to take advantage of this reality when it comes to communicating with the public and our different city departments. I will hold regular department head meetings so that we can all discuss any issues that may be occurring and to share successes and concerns. I also want to update our webpage to include a tab on the latest news in the city. Too many times we have misinformation out in the public, and it would be nice for the public to go to a place that they can receive timely and accurate information. I also would like to take more advantage of our Facebook page. We need to engage people where they are, and Facebook has become a popular tool not only to get news out, but to receive feedback. This feedback, I think, can be a way we as government leaders can gauge how a slice of the public is feeling on a particular subject. Using Facebook has to be used with caution for public officials, but with the proper training and knowing the rules, it can be a very useful tool. I will also be committed to improving our communication and cooperation with our neighboring communities. It is important to have a good working relationship with our neighbors because there will always be occasions where we can benefit from each other. For an example, when we negotiated with the communities that we serve with our ambulance service, we are now receiving money from them to put into an ambulance replacement fund. They realized how important the service was to their community, and they felt it was right to support it. This is just one example of how communicating effectively can have a benefit that serves everyone. And lastly, we need to have more transparency. We should rarely be going into closed session. We should be going into closed session only in the most sensitive issues.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, any follow-up on the
Yeah, lines of communication should be open to all residents and department heads alike, along with respect. We need to respect one another as leaders, with our department heads and our residents and the taxpayers. I'll go back to that. I have run a business for 6 years with department heads, a vice president, secretary, treasurer, and my vast knowledge of experience in negotiation experience is going to help the city in the long run if I'm your mayor of Mayville.
Mr. Redeker, any follow-up?
No, I think communication is crucial, like I said, to any successful business or government agency or relationship. It's the number one key to success.
All right, that's it for the questions for tonight. We'll have a closing statement of 2 minutes each, and the first closing statement is by Mr. Bell.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. I also want to, again, thank the Chamber for hosting this debate. I think it was very informative, and I think that the general public has a tough decision ahead of them. I'm running for mayor of Mayville because I care about our elderly on a fixed income, our residents who are struggling to make ends meet, and our youth. I wholeheartedly support and want to keep our police, EMS, and fire department intact and not contract out these important services because they are the heart and soul of our community. I moved to Mayville 17 years ago because I have small town values just like many residents in Mayville do, and because it's the best city in Dodge County to live and raise a family. The only special interest group I represent is the residents of the city of Mayville. I voted against raising your 2014 property taxes. I voted against the wheel tax. I voted against raising business fees and taxes. I voted against the Shopko development and annexation. I voted against the 2014 reassessment of your property. I voted to keep the Mayville pool and not sell it to the school district. Friends, I am an honest, trustworthy person with hard work ethic. Help our residents and businesses of Mayville, and help me by voting for Rob Belk on April 1st. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Belk. Mr. Redeker, your closing statement.
I want to first thank the Chamber for holding this debate tonight. I know it was a lot of hard work to put this event together. I also want to thank Alderman Belk for participating in tonight's debate. Mayville has a very big decision to make on April 1st. I believe this decision will have a long-lasting effect on the city. Are we going to keep going down the path that we have been on for the last several years, a path that respects the taxpayers' money and spends it responsibly, a path that shows we can provide for public safety at the same time